Good morning and welcome. When we began planning for our 2020 Women Lead Change ICR Iowa Conference last year, we knew that we wanted to give a nod to the incredible anniversary that we would all be celebrating this year. Of course, I'm talking about the 100th anniversary of the signing of the great 19th Amendment, the women's right to vote. Can I get an amen? The way we would honor that during each conference would be to make sure that we were representing a first of some kind. And for this conference, it was going to be the appearance of the incredible, and is the appearance of the incredible Dr. Peggy Whitson. In 2007, she became the first female commander of the International Space Station, and in 2017, she then became the first female astronaut to command the station twice. We got some cool swag with We the Women on it as well. We were having so much fun. Well, in an effort to overachieve, we thought, what else could we do that's a first at this year's conference? And here we are, hosting the very first Women Lead Change annual conference virtually. Looking for silver linings here and anywhere else we can, because what else are we going to do in this moment? It is our sincere hope that you are doing the same, looking for those silver linings. This conference being one of those opportunities for you. Due to the format, you will be able to come and go, check the agenda on Whova, watch when you want, and for some of you, when you can throughout the next 2 days. The attire today, well, we're guessing everything from yoga pants to pajama bottom casual, and hopefully everything else in between as well. For some of you, your new office mates may actually be able to use some of this information as homework, now that many of us are teaching at home. And if you're like me and have four-legged office mates, they can come and go over the keyboards, under the desk, anytime. This is a judgment-free zone for the next 2 days. And in all seriousness, while there is a lot that is different about this format, there is one thing that is the same today as it was when our founders at Women Lead Change put together the very first conference in 2007. This is about you, and it's about your professional development. And for many of you, your companies recognize your value and your role as a current or emerging leader for them. They are investing in you to be here today and tomorrow. So I salute them for recognizing that in you. We are also living out our conference mission, which is to connect, unite, and inspire in 2020. I mentioned Whova. This is the best way to connect with our attendees virtually. And as you know, it is one of the best benefits of being at a conference in person. We're doing it on Whova and we're doing it virtually this year until we can gather again together in person. If you haven't downloaded that app yet, Whova, W-H-O-V-A, please do so, because our speakers, while they're going to be appearing virtually, they will be online as well to take your questions via this Whova platform following their presentations. This really does provide a unique opportunity for us to interact with them in a new and unique way. We will unite. Social media is a great way for us to unite in this extraordinary effort to ensure that the show must go on. You are showing off your grit and resilience here. No virus is going to stop us here. And oh, by the way, our male partners, our allies, team members are here with us today as well. They stand united with us, recognizing the challenge that we still face as women in the workplace today, and they want a role in helping to make that better. Use the hashtags. Who knows? The Women Lead Change Conference may just end up trending on Twitter. And finally, it's our hope that you are inspired, that you hear something that you need to over the next 2 days. Something that for you, what a conference speaker did for me and countless others who've shared their stories over the last few years, may change the way you view your role in the world. Stories of personal growth and exploration happen after attending these events in person, and certainly we hope virtually as well. We are breaking new Women Lead Change conference ground here. We're the first to try this out. You're doing a lot of first in your world as well these days too. So let's just celebrate that together. Remember those silver linings I talked about? Let's get started.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinguished honor to welcome you all to the Women Lead Change ICR Iowa Conference on behalf of presenting sponsor Collins Aerospace. As Vice President of Avionics Engineering at Collins Aerospace, I'm pleased to share that we are proud sponsors of today's event. For 13 years, since the very first conference in 2007, Collins Aerospace has been a champion of Women Lead Change. Over those years, Women Lead Change has grown from 450 attending to today's 1,000. The change-making resources and camaraderie this organization provides are invaluable. As you are all aware, we are all working our way through the unprecedented challenges COVID-19 poses to our businesses, communities, and homes. I'd like to thank our conference organizers for creatively problem solving to make it happen online this year. This year's conference celebrates 100 years since the passage of the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing and protecting women's constitutional right to vote. The historical centennial commemorates an equal rights milestone. While we continue to work towards full equality in all spheres of modern life, I'd like to remember how far we've come, thanks to the women and men who fight for places we now hold. And I don't need to tell you that we have more work to do. Thanks to Women Lead Change, we have a great team assembled today to lead that charge. I attended the very first Women Lead Change conference, and many since then, and continue to be inspired by their commitment to advancing women's leadership and offering impactful events like this conference. In my field, STEM, women comprise 24% of the workforce. 26% of computer scientists are women. 17% of tenured or tenure-track faculty in engineering are women. And 13% of engineers are women. And we are making progress. From 2011 to 2016, we saw a 54% increase in bachelor's degrees awarded in engineering and computer science to women. At Collins, we are working to build a more diverse STEM workforce by supporting organizations like Girls Who Code, International Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day, and Women Lead Change. We know that gender diversity matters. In fact, gender diverse companies are 15% more likely to outperform less diverse organizations. Companies with higher than average diversity have 19% higher innovation rates. And that makes sense. Diverse backgrounds bring more creative problem-solving abilities and more actionable ideas to the table. But diversity alone isn't enough. All employees need to feel included. When employees feel they are an integral part of their team, they are more likely to be collaborative and innovate. And this is where male advocates for gender diversity, which will be a key theme this conference, really matter. Building an inclusive culture requires calling out bias, mentoring someone with a background different from your own, and advocating for individuals who don't have a seat at the table. According to Deloitte Insights, an inclusive environment results in organizations that are 8 times more likely to achieve better business outcomes, 6 times more likely to be innovative and agile, 3 times more likely to be high-performing, and twice as likely to meet or exceed financial targets. That's major payoff for inclusivity and underscores the importance of company culture.
Not only is Collins Aerospace proud sponsors of today's event, they are our presenting sponsor after all. They're proud supporters of all the work that Women Lead Change is doing to advance women leaders at all levels. And now on to the conference. It is my pleasure to introduce Antoinette Clark and Tricia Clark Stone. Twins and boss ladies, Tricia Clark Stone and Antoinette Clark, will divulge some of their shared wisdom and unique personal revelations on how you alone can break through the status quo to achieve the success you want. First by doubling down on yourself, and then doubling down on the people around us. Antoinette Clark is a 2-time Emmy Award-winning television producer and the Vice President of Branded Entertainment and Media Innovation at CBS. She's worked as a producer for The Tyra Banks Show, Rachel Ray, and The Nate Berkus Show. And she was honored with a Black Women in Media Award in 2017 and was named one of 39 featured in Adweek's annual Disruptors list back in 2018. Tricia Clark Stone is the co-founder and current CEO of WP Narrative, which is a content innovation studio that she sold to Hollywood hitmaker Will Packer. Tricia's been named one of Crain's New York 40 Under 40 and Ad Age's 40 Under 40, and her work has been honored at South by Southwest, Cannes Lions, the Clios, and the Webbies. Help me welcome Antoinette and Tricia.
Hey leaders! It's such an honor to record this for such ambitious and fearless professionals.
We're so grateful the Women Lead Change organizers have made this possible for us and for you.
If you're watching this, you should give yourself a major high five or get someone in your home to give you one.
But only after they've washed their hands for 20 seconds.
Despite everything that's going on, you showed up and you tuned in. That's the mark of a leader right there. In spite of the distraction of constant news alerts, calls from worried family members, and of course the virtual dance parties on Zoom, you found the time to focus on your growth and evolution. You're playing the long game, which is crucial to your own longevity.
That's right. In our book, Double Down, we talk a lot about the importance of building a strategy that will serve you for the long haul. Doubling down is not about finding a quick fix. It's about investment, endurance, and persistence.
It's about making calculations that may not even pay out in the immediate moment, but as it sets you up for a bigger, more permanent win down the line.
You can think of doubling down as harnessing the power of a 1-2 punch. First, you identify the power within yourself, then you go on to nurture that power in others.
Right, because when you double down on yourself, it automatically has a multiplier effect. You get more opportunities and bring other people up with you.
We know this firsthand, of course, because we both got one of these. That's why we wrote the book.
But Double Down is not about being a twin. I want to be clear about that.
We wrote it because we knew that the lessons we learned as twins and as ambitious and fiercely independent professionals would resonate with women all over. Women who face the same desires and challenges as we do.
It's women like you. So why don't we just start there? With the one and only, impossible to replicate or replace, uniquely designed, uniquely motivated you. Because we are all unique, no matter how often Andrew and I walk around wearing the same clothes completely by accident. And of course, because number one always comes first.
Well, unless you're going backwards, and we're pretty sure you people are all looking to get ahead.
So how do you double down on yourself, and what does that even mean? Well, I'll tell you, it starts with just one thing, the status quo.
The status quo is a barrier you have to smash to pieces right at the onset to continue on this path. You can think of it like the house in a casino. The house never wants you to win. So you have to play that blackjack table in the shrewdest, smartest, and most strategic way so you can get ahead.
The status quo in real life is the same. It's the system that tries to hold you back, the people who ask you to settle for less. It's the old boys playbook. The rules that tell us what we can and can't expect for ourselves, and how we can and can't achieve those goals. It's the get in line, wait your turn, pay your dues. You can't do that mentality that governs most of the world.
And it all too often manifests inside your head as self-doubt and fear. It's the voice that tells you you need to rethink your skirt when you should be refining your presentation. It's the voice that tells you if you speak out of turn, people will think you're too aggressive. It is what forces us to choose between happiness and work. It has straight lines and sharp corners that box you in and keep you in your place.
And as a result, the status quo promotes these two mythical stories, the born leader and the overnight success. And it lumps the rest of us in the middle.
And the middle, well, that's where people get stuck, unable to recognize their power and fulfill their potential. Trish and I identified the status quo as the dilemma it creates for most people very early on, simply because everything about our upbringing flew in the face of those rigid playbook rules. Firstly, we were raised in Brooklyn by a committee of 5 Jamaican women. Our mom, grandmother, and 3 aunts, Aunt Leonie, Aunt Monica, and Aunt Norma. We call them the matriarchy. Our dad left when we were very young and left a void, but these women rallied around us so hard to try to fill it.
Our mom was audacity in heels, but she went about her business like a stealthy Swiss Army knife. She had a tool and a tactic for every situation, and with them, she cut herself free from the boxed-in notion that as a single mother with 2 girls, she had to raise them and live her life a certain way. She exposed us to a multitude of influences to teach us that we also didn't have to fit into a one-size-fits-all definition of girlhood.
She played us Buju Banton and Barbara Streisand. She took us shopping to Bloomingdale's on Sundays. She enrolled us at a mostly white private school and sent us to a Jewish summer camp.
Us at Jewish summer camp. And that's before we stood out because of all of the ruffles we usually wear.
We do love ruffles. So there we were, surrounded by these amazing women whose drive to succeed was fueled by their immigrant mentality. They believed in the possibility of everything. We saw firsthand that when you're not tied down to what people think you should do, you get so much closer to what you can do.
Or as I like to say, because I love music and think Stevie Nicks is a queen, you can go your own way. Who doesn't love Stevie Nicks?
I do.
So we had our matriarchy, but we also had each other. Ned and I did pretty much everything together. We did each other's homework, we hung out with the same kids, we backed each other up on money-making schemes, like the time we bought discounted sweatshirts from a store on the Upper West Side and sold them at a profit to our friends back in Brooklyn.
Plus, being a double act gave us access and attention we wouldn't otherwise have had. We got into clubs and parties our crew couldn't. We made friends so much more easily. Having a twin is a great icebreaker when you're standing in line for a beer keg.
And it's pretty handy when you're the only Black kids at the Jewish summer camp. Being a twin meant, on a very fundamental level, everything about who we were and what we did was completely different. Our experience of the world and the way we understood our place in it, it was different. The expectations that dictate how people behave and the choices they make and the personal journeys they go on, for us, they were different. We didn't just dance to our own beat. We learned to play the records with the DJs. We didn't fit in with the conventions. And as a result, we never settled for the status quo.
Growing up with that influence and with that experience opened so many doors that might otherwise have remained firmly locked, invisible even.
But there's a catch. It's actually twice as nerve-wracking to have a twin, knowing that you have to reckon with the world alone. We played up the whole double acting to our advantage, so much so there was always a fear that individually we might not be able to deliver what people wanted. What if we were uninteresting? What if as singletons we were just mediocre?
Just as many of you have probably struggled to identify who you are and what you want to be, when you're a twin, you also have to work hard to prove your merit and have the courage to show people that you're unique, maybe even twice as hard. And that is exactly how we learn the value of doubling down on yourself.
You can't rely on someone else to go your own way. Not even a twin can do that. So to defeat the status quo, you have to figure out who you are and who you can be on your own terms. You have to find out what your superpower is.
In Thailand, there's a saying, same, but different. Market vendors use it as a way of selling fake Rolexes. You know, it's the same, but different. Trish and I are exactly like that, except we're the real deal, guys. No faking here.
That's right, Ned. On the one hand, when you look at what we've achieved, on the page, it looks like we've done everything exactly the same way. We both went to Skidmore College. We both ended up in the world of marketing and media. And we're both African-American women.
Well, it would be weird if one of us wasn't, Trish.
True, but we have both risen through the ranks to become leaders and blue chip award winners in our industry, which is super rare for women, especially women of color. The paths that led us here, however, they have been completely different.
Because as people, we are not the same, even though we look very similar.
Aside from the little things like the fact that Ned has asthma, she's terrible at math and hates mashed potatoes.
It's the consistency.
We have always had diverse interests, a different vision of the future, and different motivations. And we knew that these disparities, far from pushing us apart, would ultimately be the qualities that propelled us forward.
What makes you all unique will bring the single most important thing you can uncover about yourself. When you find it, you'll have found your superpower.
And your superpower is where your passion and your expertise meet. It's the common denominator of your proudest moments.
To identify it, you have to ask yourself a couple of different questions. One, what sets me apart? What have I become known for? What do I do so effortlessly that it almost feels like magic? And what fills me up so much? What makes me feel the best I can about myself?
For example, Ned's superpower is empathy and connection. She instinctively knows how to identify what people want and what they need, and she knows how to give it to them. But I'm gonna let her tell you all about it because she's a boss lady and she doesn't need anyone else speaking for her, even her twin.
Thanks, Trish. Yes, my journey is a great example of this synergy between expertise and passion. When I was about to leave college, I discovered my superpower by examining the passion I had for TV and the way it connected people through ideas and values, and the expertise I had cultivated as an English major in college in bringing people together over shared narratives. I love the idea of crafting stories to impact culture in a positive way. So when I left college, my first job at the Montel Williams Show was a dream come true. Touching so many people, especially women, by telling and reimagining stories to serve them was such a rush for me. It was a grind for sure, but I loved it. And I didn't care at the start that my take-home pay was a measly $376 a week. That's right, it was barely 500 bucks. Trish was earning more than double straight out of college, but she always paid for dinner and doubled down on the nice stuff she bought.
I love being your sugar mama back in the day.
So everything was great, but you know, nothing lasts forever. In production, shows get canceled all the time. So you need to double down on the superpower that makes you indispensable and irreplaceable in a fluid environment. Even if you're not facing canceled shows, you'll inevitably face department shuffles, changing CEOs, acquisitions, and of course, new job opportunities. I got the promotions and the jobs I went after because I doubled down on the things that made me irreplaceable and undeniable. But you know, your passions also shift as you grow older and more experienced. And that experience becomes more robust and more refined too. So it stands to reason that your superpowers have to evolve. After 12 years of producing and winning 2 Emmys, overworked and very under-socialized, I started thinking about what my skill set was now and what else I could do.
So there's a tip here, right?
Of course.
It's never too late to pivot.
Right. I went back to the formula. I asked myself, what set me apart from the other producers now? And what still makes me tick? And I realized I had producing shows I still loved, but with a lot of brand integrations. Marrying brands with entertainment content made sense for me. So I went for it at CBS, making VP in less than 2 years. Instead of focusing on sales like most people would have, I led with innovation and my producing skills. It was a different approach that definitely challenged the status quo and made what wasn't a particularly shiny toy business kind of very relevant at the time.
So Net's superpower, empathy and connection, explains how she became what we call an intrapreneur, someone who steers change from the inside. Her trajectory was thoughtful, strategic, almost like an endurance test, right? Mine was more like a fast-paced sprint. I'm all about solving a problem and then moving on to the next. My superpower is action, which is what makes me an entrepreneur. Net fosters change within an existing business, but I start businesses that create change. As a kid, I was cool to a certain point,
Kind of.
but I was also a nerd. I love gadgets and technology. Does anyone remember the Kodak Tele disc?
Probably only me.
It lasted only a few seconds, but I loved mine. I captured all of my adventures and discovery missions with it. I also love music, fashion. Who remembers those Guess sweatshirts? That was my idea. Just kidding. But I was always trying to find opportunities in unlikely places. So you may be at the start of your career or midway, might want CEO on your door, like I did when I got out of college, or maybe you want to create a new division in your company. But the way up, no matter where you are, is through the white space. The white space is where your superpower meets opportunity, where you can double down on yourself to make twice the impact. It is where the unlikely mashups occur, where you bring together ideas, people, tools, technologies, and cultural truths that traditionally don't appear together. It is where you innovate. It's the uncharted territory where there are no boundaries or restrictions. It's a super exciting and exhilarating space, but to venture there, you need to be comfortable taking risks and iterating on things no one has done until you make your mark. I love the white space. I have a whole other speech about it.
She does, guys.
I practically live there. Thank God it's conceptual and I don't have to worry about where I get a blowout. It can be hard to play in the white space. People aren't always ready for an idea that sounds risky at first, but personally, I'm determined to be legendary over temporary, and I know that the white space is the only way to make an enduring impact. When I left Skidmore, I got my start at MS Communications, where I was just meant to really be selling radio ads. But one day I realized that if I offered to throw creative services into the package for free, more brands would sign on because they felt they were getting more bang for their buck. So I started proactively advising my clients on the content of the ads, and I brought in over $1 million in my first year, which was a lot in the early 2000s. No one else was doing that. I was at the bottom of the food chain, just a sales rep. but I could see the opportunity. And as I worked my way up the ranks, I continued to look for those opportunities. So when I founded my agency Narrative 13 years later, I never actually worked at an advertising agency. Again, though, I saw a problem I thought I could solve. Any good agency can help run a brand's business, but I wanted to focus on helping to change a brand's business. So I pitched the concept of Narrative as an innovation agency. It was about redefining the rules, playing, experimenting, inventing, breaking things, leveraging tech and culture to find out what was possible when it came to bringing a brand's persona to life. To me, it was clear that no one was doing this and that agencies needed a new narrative. And others agreed, because after 4.5 years, Narrative was acquired.
The white space isn't exclusive. Once you've done the superpower search, you're halfway to IDing the white space. You already know what you're passionate about, but now you need to drill a little bit deeper into that expertise piece and consider what you've achieved so far and what people come to you for. Like, what's your reputation? That's your first exercise. The second is to ask yourself, where can you make the biggest impact given those questions you just answered? What are others doing in the same space? What makes them so successful? What can you do that no one else is doing? Trisha's reputation was in creative solutions and media sales, and she looked at the advertising space and saw there was a gap.
That's right. So here's another example that doesn't include us. When Anne Wojcicki was just working on Wall Street, she was an analyst in the healthcare division, and she surfaced a major problem and a major opportunity. As she saw it in the healthcare industry, they were grappling with monetizing treatment. No one was focusing on prevention, but she realized that prevention could save lives and be financially viable if doctors could access patients' medical histories based on their genetic makeup. So enter 23andMe, the most comprehensive database of genetic data ever compiled for humans, thanks to co-founder and CEO Anne.
Finding the white space is hard, and you may well be met with so much resistance, but remember, the status quo is powerful and it controls the conversation. But you're a damn superhero now, ladies, with superhero powers and a whole new world in the white space. You don't even need to talk.
With all this talk about superpowers, we want to assure you that neither of us achieved anything by competing and trying to beat each other to the finish line. We could never race each other and both won.
A big part of our message to the women, especially who seek our advice, is that you don't have to stand above other people, you just have to stand out. Trisha and I have always egged each other on, but we never got to where we are today at the expense of others' happiness or success. We motivated and supported each other.
As women, we should be supportive of each other's goals. You can still make it to number one if you have self-belief and courage in your own vision. No one else can see what you see.
Today, we're here celebrating leaders and uniting allies. And if the matriarchy taught us anything, it's that no woman is an island. To be your best self, it isn't enough to double down on yourself. You also have to double down on those people in your life who can bet on you, who you can bet on, and who can bet on you too. Those allies, we call them our tribe.
That's right. Your tribe is your elevation and it's your gravity. It lifts you up and it keeps you grounded. They're not just friends and they're not just people at work. They're the sum of all your most meaningful connections in all the different areas of your life. People who you can learn from, who inspire you, who you share common passions with, and whose commitment to the relationship is completely mutual. You want the right people in your corner, rooting for, supporting, and loving you.
If you break it down, there are 4 groups in this tribe.
So the first is your inner circle.
These are your closest people, your siblings, your best friends, your family. You call them late at night and text them early in the morning. You share secrets and show up for them no matter what.
Number 2 is your crew.
This is the circle of friends that is a bit wider. The people that cheer you on, you feel comfortable relying on. They make you smile on the rare occasions when you see them.
The third is your work squad.
This is who you roll with at work and definitely after work. They're on the front lines with you, fighting that good fight day in and day out. You rise up together, but when you change jobs, you're still tight.
And 4, that's your board of advisors.
Right. These are people who are your trusted counsel, people who you consult with when you have big life decisions or a big life moment to figure out. The board is made up of anyone whose opinion you respect and value, from your closest friends, most trusted colleagues, and your gurus, basically everyone we mentioned above.
Your gurus, by the way, they're not your mentors. Mentors will widen your network, which can open doors, no doubt, but gurus widen your horizons and push you towards your North Star. They are aligned in values and curiosity. They're not always the most powerful in the room, but they're the people you admire, and they're the people who will believe in you if you show them what you're made of.
So let's linger here for a second. We've got all the time in the world, right, guys? And I bet you have enough toilet paper and pasta stocked up for a few days. So let's take this opportunity to pause and write down the names of people you put in each of the groups we just mentioned, and take stock of who they are in your life. Ask yourself, what value do they add? What do you offer them? And what's missing?
Go on, pause the video. You'll be surprised by what you discover about your tribe.
The reason we make the distinction between mentors and gurus, and why we even bring up groups like your crew at a leadership conference, is because how you cultivate relationships and who with is everything. Everyone knows connections matter. They can be casual introductions, interviews, referrals, mentorships, and more than anything, if you're to believe the status quo, opportunities. The status quo tells you that if you know the right people, you get into the dope party where you can meet a game changer in your life. That if you know the right person, you'll be discovered. It might even make you believe that connections are elitist. You have them because you're rich or you're cool or you just don't. But no matter what, they help you get your foot in the door. Sure, maybe, but those aren't connections, guys. They're contacts. Real connections, the kind we're talking about, blast the door off its hinges.
This is where we differ from most conventional wisdom, because making contacts is to make shallow alliances, and we're interested in making deep, enduring connections. Remember the long game. We're not trying to set something out. We're not trying to set something up that's all about just those connections. We're curious about what we can take away from them and what we can bring to the relationship. It's not transactional or means to an end.
We have 3 principles of connection that we realized over the years we've unconsciously stuck to as we navigate our distinct worlds. The first, be who you are, not who you think you should be. Be authentic. It's a valuable currency and most people can spot a faker. Confidence in who you are and curiosity about other people goes so far. You don't have to be those other people.
2, you want to match passion versus profession. When you meet someone new at a party or at a networking event, try and make connections through emotional and social touch points versus comparing notes on jobs. We're all human after all. An early conversation with one of my first and most precious gurus was about how much I hated and she loved cats. It sounds superficial, but it was the beginning of the groundwork of a deeper connection.
And the third, lead with what you've got, not with what you need. There's no bigger turnoff than talking to someone who you know is trying to get something from you.
Being ass-kissed or buttered up, it's the worst. So don't be that person. Don't be a taker, be a maker. Be curious about what other people need and help them get it.
Okay, so now you've doubled down on yourself. You've identified and honed in on your superpower. You're beginning to carve out the white space and understand where to look for opportunities that solve problems and create needs no one else is thinking about. And you've unlocked the power of your tribe as a launch pad for your ideas and a crash pad for the failures that you will inevitably happen, but only make you stronger. And then suddenly you find yourself with that promotion or you're in charge of a new team. You're a boss lady.
So what do? How does a boss lady engage her crew at work, Nat?
The only way we can, with fearless optimism and belief in your own audacity. That's exactly how. We all have fear. We all experience self-doubt at times. We're not robots yet, no matter what Andrew Yang might have told you.
But the boss lady has to manage the fear and the confidence that she's doing the right thing and the compassion to bring people on board with vision.
Right. It's a balance of IQ and EQ. You can't just be that bitch who barks orders at everyone because you're too scared to show your humanity.
But you can't be scared to own your audacity either. You got to own it, and you can't be afraid that someone else will label you a bitch. I mean, come on, ladies. We know when we're being bitchy. Am I right?
Well, I definitely know when she is.
Okay, Ned. I can tell you one of the scariest days of my life was when I had to put all that thinking into action the morning after my marriage officially fell apart. I had to go into work to meet my team for a weekend of last minute prep for a huge pitch on Monday. And right up until that elevator door opened, I was wiping away tears. I knew I had to pull it together. I had to be in control for their sake as much as mine. I needed to channel the audacity, the fearlessness, and the optimism. And it worked. We won the pitch. Under Armour in our second year.
Props to you, Trisha. Fearless optimism is inherent. You have to live it and breathe it. But we all have different ways of manifesting that quality outwardly as we lead. As a CEO, Trish learned very fast how to become a general. She learned to plan, to strategize, and coordinate. She knew that to beat the status quo, you need to make sure all your troops are ready, willing, and able. You need to innovate new ideas. Those give you your tactical advantage. And then you need to know your marketplace. That's the battlefield.
And as a producer, Antoinette, after she became an SVP, so much of what she did was basically being an orchestra conductor. When you're producing a TV show, everything has to sync up and harmonize. When you need to make sure all your segments are in order and ready to go, right? There's the show, it needs creative control. There's talent, the host or guest, they need to feel taken care of. Then there's the network. You have to deliver a rating and create an innovation so that brands are willing to pay top dollar.
You might be more of a democratic leader, or you may play less a visible role, but also present role like Yoda. Whatever your style, as boss ladies, we must all inspire belief and action in people and commit to them. Not just for the people in our immediate life, but for those who see us from afar. You hear it said all the time, and it's so true. You can't be what you don't see. But when we create new norms around power and leadership, connection and partnership, women all over see themselves in different positions. We need to do this. Nothing should be off limits.
Men go to bat for their colleagues all the time. They bring them in on deals. They make sure they have a seat at the table. We need to be doing more of that. It's not enough to get in the building. We want to get into the boardroom. Yes, of course, we're going to go to our spa days, but let's bring each other to the dinners with the investors too. What if all the women watching join forces and pull together $5K each to invest in the next big startup? We should be doing things like that.
That's why we're here, to share what we've learned on our journey, seeing the world a little bit differently than most people, and to use it to raise up talented and ambitious women like you.
I like to think of 1 year as 365 possibilities. As you check into these virtual seminars and talks over the next 2 days, you're going to see so many versions of what's possible for you. You'll leave feeling invigorated and incited to action. Hold on to that feeling and then double down on it for the next 363.
Good luck. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you so much for all of that. By the way, your apartment is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Can I just say
It's
that? It's beautiful. So much to take away. Oh my gosh, rather be legendary than temporary. I wrote that down, the white space. I really appreciate your last message about lifting others up along the way, and it's not just enough to get in the room. We want to be in the boardroom. So thank you for prompting us on that. One of the things I just want to ask you about real quickly before we send you off on your way, the idea of fearless optimism. At this time, that can be really tough as a leader. What would you advise those of us here listening to you as leaders, not only even at home? I mean, people are looking to us as leaders. How do we maintain this fearless optimism?
I think so much so is about remembering one thing we spoke about, your superpowers, right? And what you do so well. And your superpowers, that's always anchored in what you're passionate about. So I think it's getting back to the core of what drives you and what makes you happy and what inspires you. And I think if you can stay grounded and rooted in that, that will help you kind of down the long haul, especially now since we have so much time on our hands. We need to get back to some of that basics and almost reacquaint ourselves with each other, right?
And I think a big thing is looking through the lens of, if you're very clear on what your purpose is and what your passion is, you will never go wrong.
So interesting. Well, again, thank you so much for agreeing to join us in this way. Your words certainly came through the ether, and we're grateful. And I know that our attendees are going to be submitting some questions, though, so we'd love to get some of your feedback via our Whova app. Just a reminder to those out there, if you haven't downloaded that app, do so. So thank you so much again, Trisha and Antoinette, for giving us such great insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Trisha and Antoinette. Sharing the wisdom from the conference is so important that Women Lead Change and a team of writers is compiling as we speak something we call Beyond the Conference, which is a guide that you will receive via email. It'll provide key points and a great recap to the conversations like the one we just had. We want to thank our partners at bronze sponsor ACT who are producing this guide literally as we speak. We're now going to give you a quick break, so we'll be back here in 15 minutes for my conversation with Ambassador Samantha Power. And in case you don't recognize that name or know of her, she actually worked closely with both President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and she's currently a professor at Harvard. We'll see you back here in 15.